En dat was het koor van Hour of Power met die prachtige stemmen. En ergens in dat koor zag je ook de gast staan die ik nu mag interviewen. Dat vind ik een groot voorrecht. En haar naam is Sarah Grandpre. Zij is artistiek leider van het kinderkoor Voices of Hope van Hour of Power en solozangeres. En ze heeft een bewogen carrière achter de rug. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning.
So happy to have you here. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have an incredible voice. You sing Beethoven, Haydn, Mozart, Handel.
Yes.
But you also sing musicals.
I do, yes.
What a variety.
It is, it's wonderful.
What is better, Beethoven or ice cream in a musical?
They're just completely different. I couldn't choose between the two. It depends, I suppose it depends on the mood of the audience, the mood of the performance.
What's your favorite musical?
I love Les Mis. When I was 11, that was my absolute favorite musical. I would sit with the CD and go through the music and the lyrics and memorize all the parts, everyone's character. I love that show.
Les Miserables. Les Mis, that is...
Les Mis.
Yeah. So what would you like to sing for us from Les Mis?
Oh, I could sing on my own a little bit.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
On my own, pretending he's beside me. All alone, I walk with him till morning.
When you sing that, I think about your past, because you have been betrayed and you've gone through a very hard time. Are you willing to share with us, or is that too much?
Yeah, I'll share about that. I think it's important to say that when I started working for the Crystal Cathedral Choir for Hour of Power, I was invited to come and audition for Don Newen, and I thought that this would be an opportunity for me as a stopping off point in my career. I thought that I would come into the choir and sing with the choir for maybe a year. And then after the year was over, I would move on to something else. I had a couple of professional ideas for myself. And I would call myself a recovering perfectionist. I think many performers are very, very strict and very critical of themselves. And I'm a great planner. So I had these amazing plans for my life. And my story is that during my time at the Hour of Power Choir, I was experiencing a couple of failures. I had a professional failure and then a personal.
You say that's easy. What is a professional failure?
Auditioning for a program, getting really close to getting into the program, and then not being accepted into it.
Hard.
Expecting it to happen and working so hard, working for a year to be able to be accepted into it. It's very, very hard to experience failure at a professional level when you've worked so hard for something and you feel like it's something that you would be great at, something you'd be great for. And during that same time, I was in a relationship that, at the time, I really believed this was the relationship that was going to last for the rest of my life. And I put so much...
Why did you think that?
Why did I think that?
Yeah.
I was in love. I was in love, and I felt like this person was my person. And I thought this is going to last me for the rest of my life. And I decided that I was committing to this, and this is going to be how my life goes. And so when the relationship failed, I was blindsided.
Why did it fail?
I think it failed because it wasn't right from the beginning. I couldn't see it at the time. And
love is blind?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I wanted so badly to make it work that I couldn't see that it wasn't going to work. And so I think that in the long run, God, in His great mercy for me, took me out of something that wasn't good for me. So throughout this time, I was still in the choir, and I felt for the first time in my life, I felt really hopeless. I felt like I was the failure, not that I had failed at something, but I myself was a failure. I felt like I had failed God, I'd failed myself, I'd failed this person, and I couldn't go on. I didn't know how to go on, and I had a moment where I just got on my knees and I begged God to help me, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I felt like I wasn't able to go into my life and to continue to be who I had been. I was going to change. I knew that was going to change. And one of the things that struck me right from the beginning was that I had choices to make. I could choose to leave the choir. I could choose to push through the pain and the suffering and show up anyway. I got on the phone with Don Newen, and he told me that I was a good person and that God had great things for me.
Is that what you want to hear from a guy you admire, the conductor of the choir?
Yeah, someone who I look up to and someone who has a relationship with me. And Don was so kind and so gracious at that time, and I feel like many other people in the choir were gentle and careful with me.
So it became a family, the family you were missing.
Yeah, and I already had a community there, but I hadn't experienced that feeling of people joining you and weeping with you when you're sad and suffering.
What is it when people weep with you from the depth of their heart?
It feels like they're saying, I feel it too. I know what you're going through, I felt what you're going through, and I feel it too, and I love you no matter what.
Yeah.
And for me, that spoke more than anything else could speak. At the time, I was also singing in the choir, so I would come to church in the mornings and I would sit up in the loft and cry through half the service, which was humiliating for me. I didn't want anyone to see me so vulnerable, but my pride was broken at that point, and I started listening to Bobby's messages with new ears. And I heard that message that God loves me no matter what, over and over and over again. And it's something in my heart started to change. I started to realize that it isn't what I do, it isn't what I have, it's especially not what people say about me or how people feel about me or people who reject me. It's that God loves me no matter what, that I am a child of God and that He created me just how I am. And I started to embrace my flaws, which was really difficult to do, and started to give myself grace to just be in the process of growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suffering is really hard to do, and it's really hard to do publicly. Yeah. But it starts to push the pride away, and so you can start to become a more clear version of who you are, a more honest version of who you are. And I think that the season of suffering for me was my most vulnerable time, and that God was able to use that to change my heart. I started to see that I make plans without asking God to be part of my plan. I make plans and I decide that I'm going to do things. They're beautiful ideas, but if God's not in it, it's not going to work out. And He has better plans and greater ideas for my life. And to begin to trust Him with my heart, it was an incredible time for me. And those things that I had failures in, my professional aspirations, this program that I really wanted to do, this relationship that I had set my mind on, these were idols in my life. And they weren't as important as God. They needed to be under that. And I feel like God had to break that in my heart so that I could see that He has such great plans and He loves me and He wants to use me if I am willing to be used for Him.
It's quite a change, huh?
Yeah, it's quite a change. I think it's maybe maturity too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah, you're not only singing with and in the choir, but you're also a soloist, and we see you at times. Can I say I'm an admirer of you?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I can't help it. And also because when I'm there in Shepherd Grove, you always run up to me and so warm and inviting. So one of my favorite composers is Handel.
Uh-huh.
So you know the question already.
Yeah. You want me to sing Handel?
Yes.
I will sing, I know that my Redeemer liveth.
I know that my Redeemer liveth. It's a majestic song from Handels Messiah. And I noticed that you were singing from the heart. What does it mean to be redeemed?
That's new for me too. That's something I never understood until last year. Really, because I feel like I knew that God could change my story. That what I felt and feeling like I was lost, that He could do something with that. He could redeem my life. and that he could take something that I saw as so negative and change it into something good for his glory. And to know that my Redeemer liveth, to feel that God is with me. He is real. He is here. He's with me. And he wants to help me. And he wants to use me if I will allow him to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you appreciate about the Dutch?
The people here are just so warm and wonderful and excited. They want to share the country with those who are visiting. So for our Power family back home, I think that my experience in the Netherlands has been nothing but lovely and warm and excited to have us here. And I'm so happy to be here. And I just think that this has been an amazing experience in the trip.
Good. And Luke 15, I think it's the most touching story that Jesus shares with us. The guy who came back to his father. And in a way,
beautiful.
it's a story of our life, of your life.
Yeah.
Lost, but found.
Lost, but now I'm found.
Yeah.
Was blind, but now I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to ask from you. Can you sing that song?
Sure.
You know what I'm talking about.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
You have such an incredible gift and talent.
Thank you.
I've invited you to stay at my home and
Yes.
wake me up every morning by singing, and you said, no, I'm not doing that. So I have to do it in the record in the morning. Thank you once again, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Ron.
You have brought so much joy and life and appreciation with your beautiful voice to the Hour of Power friends in the Netherlands.
Thank you.
And thank you once again.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.